Hello, my name is Trevor, and I thought today we would take a look at the JonBenet Ramsey case. So, I'm a clairvoyant and clairsentient, and uh, I use a scrying bowl. Sometimes I see images in the water. I also use tarot cards to kind of guide, you know, my thought process into to the spots that it needs to be. So, if you're not familiar with the JonBenet Ramsey case, it's a very bizarre case. So, this little girl was found dead in her parents' basement. There was a ransom note for a long time. The police thought that the mother, Patsy Ramsey, had written the ransom note. And now I think the common theory is that there was an intruder and the intruder killed the girl and left the ransom note. But to me, this doesn't quite add up. You know, if the ransom note was written before the girl was tied up in the basement, why did they tie up the girl in the basement? And why wouldn't they leave the house with the girl? And if the girl was killed, why would they write a ransom note afterwards? So I'd like to take a look about, you know, what is this ransom note? It doesn't make any sense. You can read it, it's online. Says something like we're a small foreign faction. We have your daughter. We want $118,000. $118,000 happened to be about the same amount as John Ramsey's bonus that year, which is also a little bit odd. But I kind of had some visions on why that number might have came about, although I'm still confused as to why the ransom note was there at all. Because, like I said, if the girl is dead and you want to escape, I mean, why use the ransom note? Unless you knew it would create this big diversion into blaming the Ramsey family. So, you know, kind of what I see is so the intruder supposedly came into the house via a broken basement window on Christmas night of, I think it was 1996. My question is, had the intruder been in the house before? I don't know if you guys have seen this movie. Um, I forget what it's called, but the movie's about these young kids that go to get back at their sexual abuser, and they sneak and they're basically living in the house without the people knowing. Was something like that going on? Was the intruder actually just staking out in the Ramsey household? And when they weren't home going through their stuff, and if that's the case, then you know, there was paperwork on John Ramsey's desk that showed how much his bonus was. So 118,000, might be a number that just pops into your mind. Still doesn't explain why you would leave a ransom. Oh, so I guess let's start with the question. So I have three tarot decks. This is the before tarot, which I find useful. This is the after tarot, and this is just the Rider Waite tarot. And we'll use this to talk about the ransom note, but I think let's ask the question. This is the Gilded Toil Tarot Royale. Um, let's just ask the question: was the intruder in the house? Um, or was the intruder staying? Had the intruder spent nights in the house prior to the night of JonBenet Ramsey's death? So, getting a couple images. One is a tent. And if you look on Google Maps in the area where the house is located in Boulder, it's not that far from Chautauqua Park. So makes me think that the intruder was actually camping out in Chautauqua Park at night and perhaps stumbled across the broken window in the Ramsey place during the day. I don't think that you're allowed to camp in Chautauqua Park, so I think the police would have put an end to that pretty quickly. But if they don't pinch their tents until the nighttime, then it probably isn't too hard to get away with. So I'm getting an image of kind of a green canvas tent. What's the intruder staying inside the Ramsey's house before the night of the murder? I'm also getting an image of like an HVAC unit closet. I don't know if there's in that house if there's a closet that you can sneak in and get behind the HVAC where you would be unnoticed. I don't know. Let's see. So you get the Knight of Pentacles. So and then yeah, the Eight of Swords, which is about a confinement. So maybe in a very small space inside the house and maybe who knows, maybe he'd been in there for months, um, on and off, coming and going as he pleased through that window. Um, the Two of Pentacles, so juggling finances, maybe this is a transient, maybe um, there was no other choice. Um, the Eight of Pentacles, I don't think this is the first time he had done this. I don't think this is the Apprentice card. I think he had some experience, staking out in people's houses. Um, and it's the Page of Cups and Seven of Pentacles. Yes, I think he was laying in wait, waiting to harvest his goods. And underneath, ironically or unironically, is the Ten of Swords, which is about complete and utter downfall. And we get the Sun card, so full illumination is the shadow energies. So perhaps all of this will come to light over the course of time. I do think that the intruder actually had been in the house, um, who knows, on and off for at least weeks, perhaps more. Um, it does get cold and camping out, well, with the proper equipment isn't bad. It wouldn't be surprising to look and then maybe just having discovered, a victim by happenstance. Perhaps it wasn't, perhaps she wasn't targeted the way the media thinks, and that's why the police haven't been able to get the right sense of who this person is. Okay, but back to the ransom note. It still doesn't make any sense to me why one would leave the ransom note. So we're going to pull three cards from the before tarot. Show me what was the energies that led up to the writing of the ransom note. I'm kind of hearing, like the click clack of a ballpoint pen. And see somebody pacing back and forth. What's the energies leading up to the right? We get the lovers, as sick and twisted as it sounds, perhaps he did think of JonBenet as in an affectionate way. We get the Knight of Wands. This is, speed and fury, needing to basically get out of the situation. And then we get the Queen of Wands, and I think maybe he thought by writing the ransom note, he could mimic a little bit of Patsy Ramsey's handwriting and pin it on her. So the Queen of Wands is kind of like the head of the household in this kind of interpretation. Um, and so it makes me think that perhaps the ransom note was just a ploy to throw the police off. And I mean, it worked. So, there was no kidnapping, but for hours they thought there was. So, um, that's interesting. All right. What were the energies while the ransom note was being written? So, feel a lot of nervousness and a shaking hand. I see a shaking hand, the pad. The energies while the note was being written. Eight of Cups. So just thinking about needing to get out of the situation, realizing that this isn't fun and games anymore. It's the Hangman, and then uh, we get the Magician. So needing to create some magic in order to save himself, and um, I have no doubt that it was a male. And I don't think the police have any doubt by that. And some of the DNA came back. Uh, Although I don't think we should trust the DNA, but we'll do a separate reading about that. Okay. So it feels like the ransom note was written with speed, haste, out of a need to get away with the murder, I don't think the murder was intentional, although I think the molestation and tying the girl up, I think that definitely was intentional. Um, which I know that's is sick to think, but the lover's card kind of indicates that. Okay, so what was the energies after the ransom note was written, but before? So if you're not familiar, the ransom note was placed on a set of stairs that wouldn't be what isn't the main set of stairs. It's a set of stairs to go from the upstairs into the kitchen instead of like into the living room. So it's another reason why I think the killer knew the routine of the family because he set the ransom note on the set of those stairs. And it could have served a couple purposes. One would have alerted him if he was still in the house to hurry up and leave, if he was there cleaning things up. And two, um, just to create more mystery, pull this magician energy and create more mystery. So is the energies around the killer after the ransom note was written. Somebody taking a big deep breath of cold air and then running. I mean, basically like a full out run away from the house and think towards the park. Let's see what the cards say. Yeah, I mean, here we go. We get the Seven of Swords trying to get away and to get away with it. And we get the Eight of Pentacles, just the Apprentice card again. Had he done this before? Are there other situations, maybe not to the extreme detail that this case has, but had he gotten away with something similar? Had he broken into other houses and gotten away? And maybe he had even thought out a little bit about what he would do if he accidentally killed her during the time that she was tied up. It's a very icky, icky energy. Um, yeah, I see somebody, running out in the cold, and you know how you blow air into your hands to like warm them up. I can kind of see his hands. They don't look like the hands of somebody that was really old, but also not super young either, like 30-ishes maybe. And the last card we get is Temperance, which it's almost like you're pleading with God to get away with this. If you get me out of this one more time, kind of a feeling. So I think the ransom note was a result of several things. One, I think the killer had seen a lot of paperwork, kind of knew what Ramsey's handwriting looked like, and thought that might um, get get the police off onto the wrong track, which they did. I'm just gonna clear this. This is just a Palo Santo, so it feels kind of icky in here. So anyhow, I don't think the ransom note was super planned out, but and perhaps that's why the 118,000 appears. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe it was the last, maybe he knew they had that much cash. Maybe he thought that that number would look suspicious and lead them towards that. Um, but it was, I think, written after she was dead, and it was uh, basically get the hell out of there kind of energy. Um, so I think you know the killer had been in the house before. Maybe he'd spent the night. Again, I see this kind of like HVAC closet. Like I don't know if there's room to maneuver in there, or maybe the HVAC unit's got like a little access door because it's up in an attic. Uh, and he had spent some nights there and wandered around the house while they were sleeping. And then, you know, uh, I don't know why exactly Christmas night was the night that was chosen. Perhaps that was just, they had been at the Ramseys had been at a party earlier that night. Maybe the the killer thought that they had had some drinks and would wouldn't be as easily roused from a sleep. So, uh, pretty gross feelings. I think we'll take some more looks. There's a few suspects that the police have on their list. I think we can probably rule all of them out, but at least clairvoyantly, I don't think any of them are correct. I just don't think this was as organized as perhaps the police think. I think, she competed in a bunch of beauty pageants. I I don't think that the killer knew that. I think it was just, a random finding of this house to the transient finds this house, realizes he can stick around, and then, he's obviously very sick. So, and that led to the happenings. So, all right. Well, thanks for listening and watching. Subscribe, like, share, and we'll talk about this again in uh, the coming days. Thanks.